Well, thanks for joining us here on Kalkine TV. James Preston with you live from our studios in Sydney, and this is the Market Movers program. The ASX 200 seems to be paring yesterday's losses, tracking overnight for the Wall Street rally. Rate hike expectations seem to be weighed down by commodity price uptick and rotation of investors' interest back to economically sensitive sectors such as financials and mining that were battered yesterday. And on that note, let us zoom our lens on the market performance today and the drivers under the spotlight. Australian shares are set for their biggest gain in nearly 3 months on Tuesday, tracking an overnight rally on Wall Street as investors snapped up value stocks that are expected to outperform along with an economic recovery. US stocks jumped on Monday as investors bought into beaten down value stocks in a stark reversal from last week when the Fed's hawkish signals on monetary policy sparked a round of steep profit taking. The US Fed's prediction on hiking interest rates sooner than expected was seen to weaken the US market sentiments last week. Meanwhile, the change in the central bank's stance appears to contradict its claims that the ongoing rise in inflation is transitory in nature. On the other hand, RBA has been an odd one out in embracing dovish tones as other developed countries' central banks. Thus, it is to be seen if the central bank will retain its belief of waiting to raise interest rates when the labour market is tight enough to drive inflation and wages sustainably higher, or improving macro fundamentals will prompt the policymakers to change their stance. Looking at the sectoral charter, energy stocks advanced, snapping a 3-day losing streak. On Monday, crude oil prices surged higher on rising demand in the Northern Hemisphere, which is driven by the summer season. Energy players such as Woodside Petroleum, Santos, Oil Search, Beach Resources and Origin Energy all traded in the green. Then the cyclical financial sector gained, with the so-called Big Four banks snapping their gains. Let's now move into the mining space though, and Pilbara Mines and Chalice Mining are topping the ASX 200 gainers pack. Heavyweight miners BHP Group, Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals all traded in the green, despite iron ore prices incurring increased pressure. On Monday, iron ore futures in Asia tumbled, with losses widening after Chinese authorities initiated an investigation into the spot market as prices of iron ore remained at a higher level despite repeated warnings from the government against hoarding and speculation. Meanwhile, ASX-listed copper players Oz Minerals and Sandfire Resources advanced on the board. Copper prices steadied on Monday, slightly up from their lowest level since mid-April, as China affirms to put a leash on commodity price rallies. Then the gold sub-index climbed while gold prices recovered from some big losses earlier in the week, including their biggest losses since March 2020. A halt in the rally of the US dollar helped yellow metal gain some ground. Australian gold miners such as De Grey Mining, Evolution Mining, Ramulus, Silver Lake Resources and Northern Star Resources all inched up today. Then nickel gold miner IGO was the ASX 200's top gainer after it said regulatory requirements for the internal restructure of the Australian arm of China's Tianqi Lithium to proceed were now satisfied. IGO plans to invest $1.4 Australian billion into the local unit. The restructure was one of the conditions precedent to the transaction to form a new lithium joint venture with Tianqi. IGO has now received Australian foreign investment approval and notice from the Australian Taxation Office, confirming the tax migration of the joint venture entity. And now, before we move on to the next news, it's time for a very short break on Kalkine TV. Tune in to get the latest information.
Whether it's about market movements or the currency graph,
sectoral coverage or industry news,
we cover it all on our news segments.
Be on top of the latest news
with Kalkine TV.
Well, thanks for your company. James Preston with you live from Kalkine Studios in Sydney. This is Kalkine TV and you're watching The Market Movers. Next in our show, let's take a look at some of the major stocks under the spotlight today. To begin with, Australian investment firm Washington H. Soul Pattinson and Company alternatively known as WHSP, soared on an acquisition update. The company said on Tuesday it would buy peer Milton Corp to create a combined company with nearly $11 billion in market capitalisation. WHSP's offer of Australian $6 per share values Milton at around $4.05 billion, and it's at a 20% premium to the stock's latest closing price. Under the deal, Milton shareholders will get 3 fully franked dividends totaling 52 cents per share. Also, shares of investment firm Milton Corp hit a record high on the announcement of the takeover offer. Notably, the deal comes just months after WHSP scrapped its buyout bid for old age home services provider Regis Healthcare. The next major update is from engineering company Monadelphous Group Limited, trading higher on the back of securing new contracts. The company today announced it has secured a number of new construction and maintenance contracts in the resources sector, totaling approximately $215 million. Monadelphous got a contract with BHP Olympic Dam Corp for smelter campaign maintenance works at Olympic Dam Copper Mine in Roxby Downs in South Australia. Then, in partnership with Fagioli, a global heavy lifting services company, Monadelphous secured a contract with NMT International to deliver specialist heavy lifting and haulage services at Iron Bridge Magnetite project in Western Australia. Its unit in Chile also got a 3-year contract with Codelco, a Chilean state-owned copper mining company, for operations and maintenance of water infrastructure at an underground mine in Calama. Besides, property development company Cedar Woods Properties Limited jumped up on releasing trading update with record pre-sales achieved. Notably, strong sales conditions across the company's high-performing projects have driven pre-sales to a record $439 million as of the 31st of May 2021. And just before we move on to the next piece of news, it's time for a very short break on Kalkine TV.
This is Andy Liu broadcasting from Kalkine Media Studio in Australia, and I'll be hosting the new Kalkine Wellness Show. The half-hour show will cover topics from how wellness as a concept has become even more significant during COVID, to how becoming vegan may improve your health, and much more. We are excited to showcase our live streaming show to our audience of millions overseas and in Australia. Tune in to Kalkine TV and join me.
Thanks for tuning in to Kalkine TV. Great to have your company. James Preston with you for the Market Movers program. It's now time to take a look at some more trending updates. And shares of battery anode maker Tauga Group have soared on MUO for battery anode material supply. Tauga has signed an MUO with Norway-based lithium-ion batteries developer Freya for the supply of battery anode materials to Freya's battery cell production under development in Norway. The agreement also includes involving Tauga co-locating operations within Freya's production facilities for the scale-up of new anode materials and technologies at industrial level for battery manufacturing. Then, fintech player OpenPay Group jumped on the acquisition of Payment Assist. OpenPay is set to acquire Payment Assist, a buy now pay later provider to the UK automotive sector, for £11.5 million. The transaction includes an earn-out component of up to £17 million, with completion expected in the first half of financial year 2022. Moving on, let's now take a glimpse at the crypto space, and Bitcoin tumbled to a 2-week low on the back of China's expanding crackdown on Bitcoin mining as investors grew more uncertain about the future of the leading cryptocurrency. A stronger US dollar has also put pressure on cryptocurrencies, and on Monday, China's central bank said it recently summoned some banks and payment firms, including China Construction Bank and also Alipay, urging them to crack down harder on cryptocurrency trading. China has been tightening its crackdown on cryptocurrencies. On Friday, authorities in the southwest province of Sichuan ordered Bitcoin mining projects to close. Last month, the State Council, China's cabinet, vowed to clamp down on mining and trading as part of a campaign to control financial risk. Bitcoin tumbled almost 11% on Monday. With this, the market valuation of Bitcoin crashed by $590 billion, way lower than the US $1 trillion it touched a few months back before coming under the bear's clutch. While other digital coins like Ether dropped as much as 16.24%, falling below $2,000 for the first time in around a month. Tesla boss Elon Musk's favourite cryptocurrency, Dogecoin, also witnessed a meltdown, crashing 37.48% to trade around 17 cents. Well, that's all for now, but stay tuned for more live updates on Kalkine TV across economy, markets and sectors. Liv Casbin will be with you next for our following live program, News Beyond Markets. I'm James Preston for Kalkine TV.